Plastic clamping knobs. Innovative Components specializes in the manufacturing of plastic clamping knobs for all industries, including lawn and garden, medical, fitness, aerospace, construction, and marine, to name a few. Particularly, we utilize both horizontal and vertical presses and specialize in insert molding, injection molding, and overmolding. Let's review the guide. Knobs are composed of a 15-digit smart part code. All important attributes of the knob are broken up into categories and listed out on the part code guide. Follow the color-coded guide to translate the description into an Innovative Components part number. Located at the bottom of each guide is the layout of the smart part code. Use this to guide you when creating a smart part code. To start, we identify the product code in red, which takes up the very first two spaces of a part code. Knobs will always start with KN. This can be tricky at times, as knob detent pins and magnetic selector pins also start with KN. However, most knobs will call out the thread pitch with a coarse or fine, C or F, in the fourth placeholder, whereas the knob detent pins and magnetic selector pins will call out an X for unthreaded shaft in the fourth placeholder. Pay close attention to spaceholder number 4 when deciphering between the two product categories. Next, we move on to the orange section labeled Threads or Thread Pitch. All thread pitch will be listed within 2 digits in spaces number 3 and 4 of the part code. In this case, the 5/16/18 diameter equals 5C in the part number format. 1/4 equals 4C in the part number format, and so on and so forth. Next, we move on to the yellow section called Stud Length. There are 4 places allocated to this attribute, located in spaces 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the part code. The first digit is a whole number in space number 5. Imagine as if there is a period after the first whole number. Spaces 6, 7, and 8 are saved for any decimal places. If a knob stud length is 4 inches in length, you would see 4, 0, 0, 0 here. If a knob stud is 2.5 inches in length, you would see 2, 5, 0, 0 here. If a knob stud length is a half inch, you would see 0, 5, 0, 0 here. If the knob is a female knob with an internal insert, we enter 4 dashes here. Next, we move on to the green section called Knob Style. This section is listed in spaces number 9, 10, and 11 of the part code. Knob styles are either 2 or 3 digits. In cases where there are only 2 digits, we use a dash in the third placeholder of knob style. Next, in blue, or placeholder number 12, is Insert Description. If the knob is a female and you cannot see through it like a donut, it is called blind. We enter a B here. If the knob is female and is made with a lock nut, enter a L here. A lock nut provides anti-vibration resistance. Think, for example, a lawnmower. The fasteners on a lawnmower would potentially vibrate loose, therefore we would use lock nuts on a lawnmower. If the knob is a female and it is neither blind nor locking, or the knob is male, we enter a dash here. Field number 13 is reserved for knob color or material. We enter the color code here. Black knobs are typically standard. We enter a dash for black. The standard material is polypropylene. If the knob is black polypropylene, we enter a dash here. If the knob is a colored polypropylene, we enter the color code provided on the guide. If the knob is black but uses a special material, we only lend any credit to the plastic types column. If the knob is both colored and has a special material, we enter an X. Typically, an X will be entered into the space articulating that there is something special or custom about this particular part, and everyone should pay special attention to the BOM, print, or description. If X is already taken, use a Y. If Y is already taken, use a Z. And if Z is already taken, start the alphabet over at A, and so on and so forth. In addition, this space holder also provides information when there is a soft tip pellet in the tip of the male fastener. This is not very common. Soft tip pellets provide a buffer between the fastener and the surface the fastener is assembled to. It is considered a non-marring fastener. A non-marring fastener is often used on expensive fixtures or chrome surfaces where you would not want the fastener scratching up the surface. If the male knob of the stud happens to have a pellet in the tip, enter a P or Q here. Next, we move on to the fuchsia attribute called Insert Material. This section is in regards to what type or grade of material the insert is made out of. We allocate 1 space in space holder number 14 for the material of the insert. Common materials are listed out, but the stock standards and most popular materials are highlighted in bold. If someone calls out steel in a simple term, they are referring to grade 2 steel. Grade 2 steel is the most commonly used steel in fasteners we purchase and use in our knobs. Steel, aka grade 2 steel, aka low carbon steel, becomes a 2 in a part code. Grade 5 becomes a 5 in a part code, and grade 8 becomes an 8 in a part code. Another popular material of fasteners is stainless steel, or 18-8 stainless steel. This translates to a 7 in a part code. Use the guide to translate a material into a single part code digit. If the material required is not listed, we use an X for special, also known as not named. Lastly, we move on to the gray attribute called plating. Plating is a coating of metal used to serve as a rust inhibitor. We reserve one space in space holder number 15 for the plating of the knob insert. Common platings are listed out. Please note, we do not plate stainless steel nor aluminum. In these cases, we use a 0 for no plating or plane. The other popular variations are clear zinc, hexavalent, zinc and yellow, also hexavalent, and Rojas zinc, which is trivalent. Rojas zinc is environmentally friendly zinc. Hexavalent zinc is harmful and has a negative impact on our environment and, most importantly, our drinking water source. It can be clear or yellow. Most of the fasteners we use are Rojas or trivalent. However, the knob part numbers typically call out a 1 or 2 in the part code for zinc, zinc and yellow, and Rojas. In order to see if the insert is Rojas, you have to drill down to the BOM to see if the fastener ends in an R or not. The reason the knobs do not have Rojas in the part number is because Rojas was not popular until well after our business was established. And for simplicity purposes, we decided not to change over thousands of part numbers and rebuild thousands of BOMs, but instead request you simply review the fastener in the BOM. Now that we know how to use the part code guide, let's move on to the practice quiz. Plastic knobs quiz number 1. 1.16 T-knob with a 1/4 20 by 2.5 brass stud. First, we identify the product code. KN would go into the first 2 digits of the part number. Next, we move on to the thread pitch. This is a 1/4 20 by 2.5 brass stud. So we look for 1/4 20, and that 1/4 20 is a call out of 4C. We enter 4C in placeholder number 3 and 4 of the part code. Next, we move on to the yellow section for stud length. This stud length says by 2.5. We would enter a 2, pretending there's a period, then a 5, 0, 0, in spaces 4 through 7. Next, we move on to the knob style. This says 1.16 T-knob. So we find the T-knobs listed on our knob style guide, go over to the T's in the second to last column, and we see a T1 is 1.16 in diameter. So we enter a T1 dash into the part code. Remember, when a knob style has only 2 digits, we put a dash in the third placeholder. Next, we move on to the insert description. This is when a part is female only. Therefore, since this is a brass stud, we would enter an automatic dash in this placeholder. Next, we move on to plastic colors. This does not say that the knob is any color, so we assume it's an automatic black. Then we move on to plastic types. Again, this does not call out any special type of plastic, so we assume it's polypropylene. It also does not call out solid hub nor nylon pellet, therefore we are just going to enter a dash in this placeholder. Next, we move on to insert material in fuchsia. This says brass stud. We look down the column to find brass, and we see brass equals a 9. We would enter a 9 in this placeholder. Next, we move on to plating or color of insert. You do not plate brass, therefore you enter a 0 for no plating or plane. This part number's call out would be KN 4C 2500 T1 90. Number 2. 2.5 inch Royal 3-prong knob with a 5/16/18 blind steel zinc insert, Rojas compliant. First, we identified the product code. KN would go into the first 2 digits. Next, we identify the thread pitch. The thread pitch in this description says 5/16/18. So we go over to our guide, we find 5/16/18, and we see that translates to a 5C. Next, we identify the stud length. This particular part looks like a female to me. Otherwise, it would say 5/16/18 by, and then a certain length. In this case, it does not. It says blind steel zinc insert, therefore it's a female. So here is where we would enter 4 dashes for female insert, taking the place of the male stud. Next, we go on to knob style. This says 2.5 inch Royal 3-prong. Royal 3-prongs are RTs. So we would look in the 3-prong column, the very first column, and we find the RT section. We see this as 2.5 inches in diameter, which translates to an RT7. Next we move on to the insert description, and this is for female only. This particular description says blind. Therefore, we would enter a B in this section. Blind means you can't see through it like a donut. Next we move on to the plastic colors and plastic types. There is no color nor special plastic type listed. There is also no solid hub nor nylon pellet. Therefore, we would enter a dash here. Next we move on to insert material. This says steel zinc insert. Steel, also known as grade 2 or low carbon steel, is the most popular steel, and we would enter a 2 for grade 2 steel in this digit. Next we see it's a zinc insert, but that it's also RoHS compliant. Typically, you're going to see a 1 on a plastic knob for RoHS compliant zinc. It is rare to see an R on the plastic knob component. In order to see if it's RoHS or not, you would have to drill down to the BOM component and see if the insert ends in an R. So for our purposes of a knob, typically you're going to see -21 at the end of this. This part code would look like KN5C RT7B-21. Number 3, 2.34 inch red fluted knob with a half 13 by 3.25 inch 18/8 stainless steel stud. First we identify the product. This is a knob, so it translates to KN. Next we have to identify the thread pitch. The thread pitch in this description is half 13. Half 13 translates to an 8C on the guide. Next we identify if there's a stud length. Remember, we have 4 placeholders, 1 whole number, and 3 decimals in this area. This says half 13 by 3.25. So we would enter 3250 in these 4 placeholders. Next we move on to the knob style. This says fluted knob. This is a 2.34 fluted, so we would go to the F's column, and we find an F6 translates to 2.34 inches. Therefore, we would enter an F6 and then a dash in these 3 placeholders. Then we move on to insert description. Insert description is for female only. Because this is a male, we would enter an automatic dash here. Next, we move on to plastic colors and plastic types. I see in the description that this is a red fluted knob. It does not call out any other special plastic type, nylon pellet, or special hub. Therefore, we would enter an R for red in the part code. Next, we move on to insert material. The insert material is 18/8 stainless steel. Therefore, we would enter a 7, which is equals 18/8 on the part code guide. And remember, for the plating, we never plate stainless steel. Therefore, it would be 0 for no plating in the part code. This part code would read KN 8C 3250 F6 R70. Go ahead and finish 4 through 10 using the part code guide and everything you've just learned. Good luck.